Hey everyone, it's Ryan here. If you've been here before, you know my channel is all about preparation for standardized tests. Right now I focus on the National Board dental exams, but I hope to cover even more tests in the future. We've spent a lot of time going over concepts and material to memorize, so I thought, why not make a video about how to study? I've picked up a lot of tips and tricks over the years and thought, why not share them with all of you? So let's talk about how to set yourself up for success when you're studying. So I came up with the rule of 3 during dental school, where it really took me 3 times of reviewing material to have a good grasp on it. So the first time is the initial exposure. This is if you're sitting in lecture, watching a video, or reading a textbook, your first exposure to the material. And that first time, I never really had a great handle on what's going on. I would try to pick out maybe 3 key facts to walk away with, but beyond that, it's just an introduction. The second time is when I go back to actually study. So writing down notes, jotting down an outline, drawing pictures and diagrams, typing up a study guide. This is when you really start to wrestle with the concepts. You come up with mnemonics and commit things to memory. But the real key is this third time, where you go back and review what you learned. The absolute best thing you can do is to review it within 24 hours of your studying. If you don't review the material, you forget at least 20% of what you learned by the next day. It's actually called the curve of forgetting. But if you do go back and review it before too long, you can remember 100% of what you studied during that second exposure. So remember, you need at minimum 3 distinct times of learning material. Plan ahead. So start early and often. The more time you have to recap and try out different study methods, the better you'll do on test day. My rule of thumb is to give yourself at least 1 to 2 weeks to study for an exam, like a dental school exam if possible, and give yourself at least 1 to 2 months to study for a big standardized test. So the NBDE, the GRE, DAT, MCAT, any of those exams. I personally like to be on the higher end of this spectrum towards 2 months, but I understand sometimes that just isn't possible. Also, this is a generalized guideline, so some exams like the CBSE, you want to have at least 3 months to study for. And try not to rely just on one resource. That's why I recommend using my videos, the Mosby's book, and the Board's Mastery app for the Part 2 dental exam, because I think it's useful to have multiple plans of attack prepared for a standardized test. So most people, not everybody, learn better and retain more when studying from a hard copy. So computers, tablets, and phones are super convenient, they're portable, but studies show that traditional printed materials may actually be better to study from and also creates less eye strain. Like I said, this isn't for everyone, but perhaps it's a good idea to at least try a different medium. Try printing something out. Try scrolling through a document on your computer, or try drawing pictures in different colored markers, and see what you enjoy. See what sticks most in your brain. I love being able to underline and highlight and write in the margins of written material, but everybody learns differently. So you just have to try different methods and see what works best for you. Change your scenery. So studying in different locations actually deeply impacts learning and concentration ability. And psychologists suggest that just moving to a different room or even a different area of the same room can help improve retention and focus. It's really hard to stay in the same place for an extended period of time and not get distracted somehow. You can even try going outside if it's nice out, going to a library, etc. Try different places and see what's most effective for you. Alright, so practice questions. Practice questions are so important for testing what you know, and in my opinion, just as important for learning new material. So flipping a question is something I learned in dental school, and it's a great way to get the most out of any practice question when you're studying. Essentially, you solve the question like normal, and regardless if you get it right or wrong, let's say the correct answer was A. If it's provided, read through the explanation why it was A, or if not, provide that explanation for yourself. And then you say, well, how would I reword this question to make the correct answer B? How would I reword it to make the correct answer C? And so on. It takes some time, but you get the most bang for your buck on every question if you think through it like that. Locate your strengths and weaknesses. The Leitner system is a strategy that forces you to learn through repetition the material you know the least. So the system involves using a bunch of flashcards, and whenever you get something right, you put it at the back of the pile, and if you get something wrong, you put it closer to the front, so the information you don't know as well is reviewed more frequently. And you can do this with physical flashcards, which are great, but Quizlet is another tool if you want to stay electronic, and it basically does this for you automatically. You make the flashcards, you test yourself, and if you get something wrong, it'll come up again and again more frequently until you get it right. So it's free to use, give it a shot, and see if it helps. Also, I like to do this while studying to predict possible trick questions and also make your own. So while you're studying, think of possible tricks that they could ask you on test day. Professors and board examiners love to do this to weed out people who don't have a complete grasp on concepts. And remember, the people coming up with the questions are people too, just like you and me. So they had to come up with questions from similar material and resources. So you can come up with your own questions and ask them to people in your study group, for example. But with practice questions, the more you do, the better. All right, next is draw connections. So go back to fundamental concepts after completing a topic or a section, and then really grasp them after you've reviewed a whole lot of material. It's known as contextual learning. The process involves making connections that categorizes all the information to kind of fall into place and make sense for you individually. So some people like to record all information visually onto a big sheet of paper or a whiteboard or a chalkboard and connect things with arrows to help paint the big picture. I like to do this in my videos where if we have a similar concept that appears in multiple different sections, to consolidate that into one big idea. So drawing connections after a little while of studying and going back to review things is a really useful study strategy. All right, so the next three have to do with holistic health. Healthy you, healthy brain. And there's absolutely science behind this stuff. So your brain functions on glucose and you need to fuel your brain each and every day. And this doesn't mean if you don't eat all the right foods, you won't do well on your next test, but it might make things a little easier for you by boosting your memory and concentration. So just some examples of brain food that I really like: colorful berries, especially blueberries, leafy greens like spinach, and cruciferous vegetables like broccoli are packed with antioxidants and rich in vitamins. Oily fish like salmon have omega-3 fatty acids. Eggs have good cholesterol necessary for brain function. Avocados and nuts have healthy monounsaturated fats that keep blood sugar levels in the right range. And drinking lots of water can help flush toxins from your body. There are more brain foods out there like garlic and tomatoes, and you don't need to start eating all of this stuff right away, but a healthy, balanced diet, incorporating some of these brain foods, can go a long way. So the next is sleeping well, and a lack of sleep really spills over into other aspects of life, especially studying. Now everyone is different, but most people need at least 7 hours of sleep per night to be functioning at their best. I know I need about 8 hours. I know people who can get away with less, but shortchanging yourself on proper sleep because of last-minute cramming can really come back to bite you when you're trying to recall information on test day. So although it can be tempting to stay up a little longer to cram in a few more facts, it's better to rest and get those hours in to consolidate what you do know, especially the night before an exam. That being said, studying right when you wake up and right before you go to bed can actually be the most valuable times. Memory consolidation occurs during slow wave sleep, so reviewing study material before bed can help your brain learn even while you're sleeping. And the last of this trifecta is exercise. This isn't really a surprise that exercise benefits the brain as well. Studies show that our brain gets a boost following even a very short workout because our bodies are literally pumping oxygen and nutrients to the brain, so it can be very productive to study right after a workout. Some people might say, well, I can't waste time exercising. I really just need to hit the books and study. Well, you can try studying during a workout, like reading a study guide while on the treadmill or listening to a video while you're jogging. You can get creative. So the 3 ways to being healthy are to eat well, sleep well, and exercise, which also helps your brain to be in its best shape. All right, so let's end the video with a few more practical tips. Practicing discipline. So set dedicated study times. Tell yourself you're going to study for 50 minutes and then take 10 minutes of a dedicated break and do whatever you like during that break. Listen to music, check your phone, reward yourself, and then go back and study for another 50 minutes and continue the cycle. Now, when you're studying, you have to be disciplined. Turn off your phone or turn it on silent. Tell people you're going to be busy and can't talk. Or, if you need a little bit more help like me, try apps that physically block distractions like cold turkey or self-control. These apps physically lock you out of certain websites and applications so that you literally cannot access them, and you'll have no choice but to focus on studying for that allotted time. You can use those apps as training wheels for practicing your own discipline. And finally, teach it back. So test yourself. Every so often, pause, flip over your notes, and recite what you know out loud to yourself. Use simple terms like you're trying to explain it to someone who may have never seen or heard of it before. And this forces you to simplify things and get a really strong basic understanding. Studies show that people have better memory and recall when they learn new information with the expectation of having to teach it to someone else. And this makes sense because teaching forces you to organize key elements in order to explain it clearly to others. So you can plan to teach information to a family member or a friend, and that forces you to learn it in a very specific way. So hopefully these tips are helpful for you as you study for whichever exams you have coming up. But that's it for this video. Thank you so much for watching, everyone. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to this channel for much more on dentistry. If you're interested in supporting this channel and what I do, please check out my Patreon page. Thank you to Michael Raja, Reb Boyd, Leonella Bunger, Zahir Anani, Ria Wadwa, David Jaden, Isabella Caldas, Ali Benjir, Badir Hefnawi, and all of my patrons for their support. You can unlock extras like access to my video slides to take notes on, and practice questions for board exams, so go check that out, the link is in the description. Thanks again for watching, everyone, and I'll see you in the next video.